will give way.
I thank the member for giving way. When he's finished denigrating every community that's made their homes in this country, will he just reflect for a moment at the massive contribution made in education, in health, in transport and many other industries by people that have come to this country? When he goes to a hospital, does he criticise those people that have come from another country and are working in our hospitals, looking after us and our health services? Or is he only interested in just denigrating people because they were born speaking a different language and they look different to him?
I think the right honourable gentleman was listening very carefully. I expressly said that high-skilled migrants do make a contribution and should be welcomed. And when I was talking about those issues with social housing, with economic inactivity, with criminality, I was reading out facts. I was reading out data, published data by the census, by the ONS. Those are facts. He may not like the facts, but they are facts nonetheless. I will give way.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way, and thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The honourable gentleman, the member for Burnley, just said from a sedentary position that my right honourable friend was race baiting, when my right honourable friend was simply reading out official statistics in contribution to an important debate about the future of our country. Does my right honourable friend think that the honourable gentleman should stand up and put his views on the record and tell his constituents what he thinks about their legitimate concerns?
I think he should do that because the British public have expressed very clear views on this. And if we can't, in this House of all places, lay out the facts, publish data as a way of having an honest debate about this issue, then I don't know where we've got to. And in fact, it is that kind of shouting down, saying that it's somehow beyond the pale to discuss these facts, is precisely how we ended up in this mess in the first place. Now let me come on to some of the steps taken late in the time of the last government. Steps they took which, yes, they were too late. Yes, they were too late. That's right. Taken late in the time of the last government, which took effect in April 2023 and in April 2024. Those steps included preventing social care workers and students bringing dependents and increasing various salary thresholds. Now, the official forecasts published by bodies like the ONS and the OBR show that net migration, thanks to those measures, is forecast to reduce by 500,000 compared to the peak, and those measures are already having an effect. If you compare visas issued in the second half of last year compared to the second half of 2022, you will see, Madam Deputy Speaker, a reduction in social care visas of 76%, a reduction in student visas of 21%, a reduction in student dependent visas of 89%, and a reduction in skilled worker visas, many of whom were not in fact skilled, by 45%. But the truth is, we need to go further. And the government white paper published last Monday does not go far enough. On the Laura Kuenssberg programme the Sunday before last, the Home Secretary said it would only have an impact of 50,000 on net migration. The numbers accompanying the white paper said 100,000. But whichever number you take, that is only between 1/10 and 1/5 of the impact of the measures taken by, I'm going to make some progress, taken by the last government. It simply doesn't go far enough. So a question I've got for the Immigration Minister, and she's welcome to intervene if she'd like to, or answer in her speech. The last government set out a plan to increase the salary threshold for family visas up to £38,000 that was due to take effect on the 1st of April this year, just 7 or 8 weeks ago. The new government suspended that measure, which will obviously have the effect of increasing immigration. So will the government implement that increased threshold as set out by the last government? As I said, the measures in the white paper go nowhere near far enough. We have set out a detailed plan. Yes, I will.
Does he share my concerns that not only are their measures inadequate, but they're potentially opening a big new route for inward migration? On the weekend, the Paymaster General suggested that the youth mobility or youth experience scheme with the EU was comparable to the one we have with Uruguay. That is 500 visas a year. We read in the papers today that the EU is asking for hundreds of thousands of youth visas. Is he concerned, as I am, that this actually could be a backdoor for a new route of very substantial migration? migration?
Yes, I do agree with my honourable friend. This could create an enormous new loophole. There are potentially around 60 million people in the UK eligible for this visa route, and we have no idea at all where a cap may be. The Leader of the Opposition asked the Prime Minister just a couple of days ago what a numerical cap might be. The Prime Minister characteristically did not answer the question. There are also there's no answers on the question of whether people coming over on this scheme could claim benefits, no answer as to the question of whether they could bring dependents, and some European countries grant citizenship to illegal immigrants just 3 years after getting asylum, and they would then be eligible to come as well. So it seems to me this route could create an enormous loophole in our asylum system. Go on.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think it's really important that the Honourable Gentleman clarify something to actually aid this debate. I've read his motion carefully. The vast majority of the motion in front of the House today is about illegal migration. And repeatedly, it feels like the issue of illegal migration and legal migration is being conflated as the same issue. That doesn't help the debate, and I wonder whether he could clarify if that's his intention.
Well, I intend to talk about both. I've been talking about legal migration so far. I'm going to come in a moment to illegal migration. But since he has raised the question of the bill that we tabled, one of the measures in that speaks directly to the question of legal migration. The numbers have been far too high for decades. The only way this House, this democratically elected House, can get a handle on this is that if we have an annual binding vote in Parliament to set a cap on the level of legal migration, so that when the cap is reached, when that number of visas have been issued, the government would simply stop issuing any new visas. That way, never again would we see a situation where migration numbers end up being far higher than expected. This House would decide, this democratically elected House would decide. It would be transparent, it would be open, and the level could be set at a number far, far lower than anything we have seen in recent history. And yet, when we put this to a vote last Monday, as an amendment to the border bill, the party opposite voted against this measure that would give Parliament the power at last to limit inward migration. I call on the government to think again, and to support our bill, which provides Parliament with those powers. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, let me turn now to the question of illegal migration, since the member opposite has invited me to do so, and it would be churlish not to respond to an invitation of that kind. Now, let me start by the main vector, the main mode of illegal immigration into this country, it's not the only one, but the main one is small boats crossing the Channel. Now, the first point to make is there is no reason at all for anyone at all, no matter their circumstances, to cross into the UK by small boat from France, because France is a safe country. France has a well-functioning asylum system. There is no war going on in France. No one is being persecuted in France. You do not need to get into a rubber dinghy to flee from Calais. Not a single one of those people coming across need to do so for reasons of fleeing persecution. They should claim asylum in France. Now, the government's record on this area is lamentable. They came to office last July, cancelling the Rwanda scheme before it even started. The amendment, by the way, Madam Deputy Speaker, in the name of the Prime Minister and Secretary of State, is grossly misleading. It describes the Rwanda scheme as being, quotes, in force. The Rwanda scheme was never in force. It didn't start. It wasn't due to start until the 24th of July. So this amendment is deeply misleading. Now the new government last July, set out their alternative plan. Their alternative plan was to, quote, smash the gangs. Now, how's that going? Well, since the election, about 37,000 people have illegally crossed the Channel. That is a 30% increase on the same period 12 months prior. Let me just make the point. And this year so far, 2025, has been the worst year ever, the worst year in history for illegal Channel crossings. And today, as we speak, in this House, today is going to be the worst day this year for Channel crossings. An observer in Dover has so far counted today 820 illegal immigrants arriving in Dover, making this the worst day of the year so far. The plan to smash the gangs is in tatters. It is not working.